In this video, you're going to learn how to play the Stonewall setup. Now, the nice thing about the Stonewall is you can play it with both white and with black. I'll show you how. Let's jump into it. So the Stonewall with white starts with the Queen's Pawn d4. Now, your next few moves will look something like this. Let's say black just develops naturally and doesn't play things like c5, which immediately challenge your center. Let's say black plays d5. You play e3, and I know this blocks in your bishop, but bear with me for a second. Your next move is going to be bishop to d3. And the setup with bishop d3 is to prevent the bishop from developing naturally out to f5. Now, normally you're going to get something like e6. At this point, I recommend you actually play knight d2. This move is strange, but you're trying to prevent black from ever getting control of the e4 square. Black develops with their bishop, you now play f4. So all of these pawns will end up on the same color square in the center of the board. Let's say castles, knight f3, and now if black plays just random move, let's say knight c6, you conclude, I should say, your setup, and you're ready to castle. Now, the next step of a perfect Stonewall will look something like this. You're going to put the knight into the center of the board where it is supported by both of the pawns that you pushed, and then you have this very nice attacking idea, rook up and over with pressure on h7, and the queen will come there in the future, and you have a devastating kingside attack brewing. This is the perfect Stonewall, and I figured that I would start out with this so you just see the true nature and devastating effect that this opening has. Now let's start filling in the gaps, okay? Let's have black challenge our setup just a little bit. Beginning with right around even here. Let's say after bishop d3, your opponent plays knight c6. At this point, you do not need to play knight d2. When you see knight c6 or knight d7 or any move that prepares e5, that will be a detriment to your Stonewall. So you need to play f4 right now. Otherwise, your opponent's going to go e5, and we're not going to get our Stonewall. This is just not a good position, right? So you see any move preparing e5, you need to go f4, okay? So first order of business, f4. Now let's say e6. Again, knight d2 needs to be played to control the e4 square, because if you just continue with knight f3, then this happens. And then maybe they play f5, now you're getting Stonewalled. You don't want that. All right, so let's back this thing up. You need to play knight d2. Knight b4 sometimes happens. If you don't have a moment where you can save the bishop, that's okay. You can reinforce it with the queen, because ultimately we need the queen on that long diagonal. But even this is not always necessary. You can go for a setup like this one, where you fully control this square, and then after knight e5 castles, you'll start some sort of active operations on that side of the board. Okay, now let me give you one more layer in just regular Stonewall play. The second that you see c5, c5, c3, even on move 1, c5, c3, you need to play c3. You're not taking, you need to reinforce that side of the board so that this is available to you. Now, if you have to take with the c-pawn when they do this, just take with the c-pawn. But if it happens a little bit later, let's say knight d2, bishop d6, like right here, c5, c3, they take maybe like this. Again, you should lean toward capturing with the e-pawn, but if you can't, because, for example, there's this problem, then you would have to capture with the c-pawn. But in a perfect world, you get the e-pawn capture back in the center, and you continue your development. So, for example, if the bishop is on e7, then c5, c3, this is considered advantageous because you control the full e-file. The knight is covered from coming to b4, and this is the perfect setup. Knight f3, castles, knight e5. All right, we're only 4 minutes into the video. Hopefully you're still with me. Not a super complicated opening. However, not everybody plays d5. Some people don't play any d5 move, okay? Some people will play a King's Indian. And against those people, what I recommend that you do, since you're not going to be able to play knight to e5, and just in general, the whole attack is going to be a little bit harder, castle against the King's Indian, reinforce the center with something like c3, and then try to play e4, e5. Generally, the rule in the Stonewall is that if they don't take the center with a d-pawn, like they don't play d5, you can go through with e4, e5. All right, by the way, notice how I didn't play knight d2? That's because there's no threat to play knight e4. All right? That should kind of give you close to everything with the white side. There's like also some tricks, you know, knight g4 is playable with pressure here, and obviously you don't want to blunder this, so don't go here, like little tactical things like that. I've seen also some disasters like this, and here students played bishop d3, and that's a disaster because this. Every move has a purpose. So for example, against bishop b7, just go f4 and knight f3, and then bishop d3. All right, if you want to play the Stonewall. Now, let's flip this over to the black side, okay? Let's flip this over to the black pieces. The Stonewall with black is on a completely different set of colors because that's just how the chessboard works. So you can only play it against d4, c4, knight f3, and those setups. If your opponent plays a king's pawn, there is no Stonewall. You can go check out my Caro-Kann video in 10 minutes or less. But what I recommend you do, the Stonewall with black, is d4, d5, and now the exact same setup. So if they play Queen's Gambit, e6, knight f3, c6, and f5. Now, with black, I recommend you do the 4 pawns first. If you wait, all right, if you wait, they have e4, you're never going to get your Stonewall. So with black, I recommend trying to play f5 as quickly as possible. If you really want to, you can get exotic and play it as early as move 3. And then after you finish all of that, you play knight f6 and bishop d6 and then get castled. With black, you play the knight out first. It's better for the protection of your king. You know, if your opponent gets really aggressive and even tries to attack your king with the queen, you need to have the knight out on f6. So, but in general, the Stonewall defense is very interesting with the black side. You can get some very nice aggressive positions. So for example, for instance, f5. And if your opponent plays like very passively, like example, knight d7. I've had some students get positions like this with white. So this is the perfect Stonewall with the black side. You've got the knight on e4, you've got the bishop, and then what you try to do from here is rook up and over. You know this from the first few minutes of the video, rook up and over, with some kingside attacking ideas on h2. And if not on h2, then you maybe launch the g-pawn. Super, super aggressive system. Obviously, there are some drawbacks from a positional standpoint. With black, your c8 bishop isn't happy. All right, when you play the white side of a Stonewall, well, this bishop's not happy, but that bishop can maybe develop to the queen side. All right, that bishop has a little bit of a slow start, but can get involved in the game at a later time when obviously things settle down and maybe your attack doesn't completely destroy your opponent right away. But this is how you play the Stonewall setup, and you play it again with the black side against just about anything. If you want to play it against c4, you just need to play e6 and then d5. We've only done about 8 minutes of this video, but go give it a shot. And once again, if you enjoyed yourself, you've watched some of the other videos, like this video, let me know in the comments below what other video you think would be useful for a 10-minute clip. Or, I don't know, let me know what your favorite kind of smoothie is. All right? I'll see you in the next video.